Kia ora 9 Weka. Here are some practice questions on algebra, still going through the practice test. Actually, it's practice test 2 that I'm doing first up, not practice test 1. Sorry about that. So this time we're going to look at two skills that are really important, which are solving equations and then substituting values into equations. So both of these things you will have already probably used quite a lot in science, especially this skill here, which is substituting into a formula. But when we start out doing it in maths, we usually don't put a whole lot of context into the questions. So it's just a bunch of numbers. All right, well, at least that's what it is in this video. So prepare to get a little bit bored, but there you go. Right, question 8a is all about how to solve equations. And the basic rule is that we always do the same thing to both sides of the equation. And the reason for that is you'll remember from class that what we're trying to do is to keep everything balanced. So you can think of equations as a bit like the kind of mobile you might have had hanging in your room when you were a baby. Everything has to balance. So we need to undo things from both sides to make that work. Okay, so if we start with two things on each side, then what we have to do is to go and lift one thing at a time off. And that's what solving all equations in algebra really comes down to. It's that big idea. So let's start by having a wee look at these ones here. So we've got A is, where are we? Where's my pen? 6y plus 3 is equal to negative 21. Right, so our goal is to isolate the y. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. 6y plus 3 take away 3 is equal to negative 21 take away 3. Which gives me 6y is equal to negative 24. If you're confident, it's totally fine to go straight to that line. Just be careful if you're going to do that. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by 6. So I'm going to do the same thing to both sides. And again, if I need to, while I'm getting used to this, I can write in that line of working. But I don't have to, right? So the reason this works is that by dividing by the 6, we've gone back to having 1y. Right, so we've got y is equal to negative 4. And again, absolutely fine to go from there to there. So that's my final answer. Y is negative 4. Let's look at the next equation. Right, I want you to have a go at doing this one before you watch me working through it. This one I'm just going to do over here. So we've got 9t is equal to 63. So t has been multiplied by 9. I need to undo the multiplication by dividing both sides by 9. And I get t is equal to 63 divided by 9. So t is equal to 7. Now question C is a little bit of a step up because you can see that I've got a variable g. I've got 7g take away 9 here. But this time I've got g also popping up on the right hand side. So my idea is that I do things to both sides, keeping it balanced so that I have all of the variables on one side and all of the numbers on the other side. So it's going to go like this. 7g take away 9 is equal to 13 minus 4g. The first thing that I'm going to do is add 9 to both sides. That gives me 7g is equal to 13 minus 4g plus 9. Cleaning that up gives me 22 minus 4g. Next, I've got 7g here, and I've got take away 4g here. I'm going to add 4g to both sides, and that will give me 7g plus 4g is equal to 22. Collecting up like terms gives me 11g equals 22. Now I divide both sides by 2, and I get g is equal to 2. And if I want to, I can check that back in here, substituting in to make sure that it works. So let's just do that now and see how that goes, because that's actually really good practice for this question down here. So 7 times 2 take away 9 is equal to 5. That's on the left hand side. What about on the right hand side? Well, 13 minus 4 2's is equal to 13 take away 8, which equals 5. So it works. Okay, so g equals 2 is my solution there. So let's erase all of that. So now we're moving on to a couple that have got more skills mixed up together. So if you're finding this a little bit too fast now, just pause the video and go and do some work out of the textbook or the work we did in class or Education Perfect until you're confident with these skills. And then we can look at this next one. So in here, I've got brackets here, and they're going to need expanding first. Right, so 4 times x minus 7 is equal to x plus 2. Expanding this side out gives me 4x minus 28 is equal to x plus 2. Now I'm going to add 28 to both sides. 4x is equal to x plus 2 plus 28. So 4x is equal to x plus 30. I want to isolate all the x's, and I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So I have 4x minus x is equal to 30, giving me 3x equals 30, which means that x must equal 10. So here I've divided both sides by 3. Now let's take a look at E. Probably the least favourite pattern of our basic equation patterns among the Year 9 population. For this one, it helps to think about how we formed that equation to start with. So let's get a little bit of space here, and I'm going to draw a bubble diagram to think about where this equation came from. So I started with a number x, right? And then I multiplied it by 6. That gave me 6x. Then I subtracted 4, and that gave me 6x, take away 4. Finally, I divided all of that by 3. Right? So that line there, you can think about that as putting invisible brackets around. So here we get 6x minus 4 over 3, and the answer we got was 12. So we can undo this equation pretty easily because it doesn't have any x's over here. We're just going to start with the 12 and work our way back. So the first thing I'm going to do is to multiply by 3. Then I'm going to add 4, and then I'm going to divide by 6. What we're going to do now is turn that into a series of equations using that ordering. So let's see how it goes. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 3. So 6x minus 4 is equal to 36. Now we're back to an easy pattern. We have 6x equals 36 plus 4. 6x is equal to 40. So that's not a very nice round number anymore, but there you go. So x is equal to 40 divided by 6. What does that give us? Well, that gives us x is equal to 6 whole numbers and 4/6, which is equal to 6 and 2/3. Alternatively, you could leave that as an improper fraction and get x is equal to 20 over 3. Now look at how I went between these two. If I have a proper fraction, the 6 wholes are 18/3. So it's 6 times 3 plus 2. So what I'm doing here is I'm multiplying these two numbers together. Okay, so my final answer there is x is equal to 20 over 3, or x is equal to 6 and 2/3. Right, that's all of those ones. Now we're going to look at these substitution ones, which are going to be a little bit faster. The big thing with substitution is to remember order of operations, and especially watch out for negative signs and brackets. So we've got a is 8. What's b? A is 8, b is negative 3, and c is 5. So part A, AC plus 4b is equal to 8 times 5 plus 4 times negative 3. That equals 40 plus a negative times a positive, negative 12. Right. 40 plus negative 12 is equal to 40 minus 12, which gives me 28. Let's move on to 9b, where we have to take a little bit more care. So 2b times b minus ac is equal to 2 times negative 3, it's worth putting that in brackets, times negative 3 minus 8 times 5. Right, so I'm substituting in for a and c here. We need to get rid of all of this stuff because we've got too much squished up in one screen. So if there's any maths teachers watching out there, I'm very sorry for my bad setting out. Right, so let's now finish off this substitution. We'll work out what's in each bracket. So 2 times -3 gives me -6 times here. I'm going to leave the brackets here first. I've got -3 minus 40. That gives me -6 times here, -43. Negative times a negative is a positive, which is 200. 6 times 40 is 240, and 6 3s are 18, so it's going to be 258. Please let me know if I've made any mistakes. That's all for now. I'll be back later on. I think I'll do some number ones on percentages and ratios and fractions, and that'll be later on tonight. Thanks for watching.